Hello. Welcome to Those Who Can't Do. I am your host, Andrea Forcum. And today we have a guest who is an overnight sensation that took 20 years, is what the way he phrases it, which is, I think, how most overnight sensations are. I am so excited for you guys to hear my conversation with him. But before I do, I have to vent about some of the things that happened to me over this past week. When we were recording this, it is the week after my husband graduated. Yay! It's very exciting. He graduated from the Yale School of Medicine, which a lot of people on TikTok got very angry at me because they're like, how did he graduate as a PA if he went to medical school? And I'm like, you don't even know. It's a master's of medical science, I think is what it is, which is like their PA program. So we go to New Haven for this. And guys, I don't know if you've been to New Haven, Connecticut. When I thought of Connecticut, I thought of Gilmore Girls, fall, maple syrup, and horror movies. And I did not realize that the only one that I was going to be experiencing was the horror movie one. We show up and we go on campus, which was beautiful. The campus, Yale, of course, is beautiful. It's like one of the oldest universities in the world, top universities in the world, all of the pomp and circumstance and all of that. Great, right? But then you walk outside of campus. And I was so surprised at how scared I was in so many different places around town. There was just a lot of really aggressive panhandling, a lot of just, when you go in somewhere and everyone kind of stares at you sideways and you're like, okay, I'm gonna, all right, someone's calling me, bye. Like one of those kind of things. Like I just went to Walmart and I've been to New York, I've been to LA, I've been to big cities, and I have never felt that way before. But I kept on thinking culture, right? Like maybe just culturally, maybe they're just like a busy folk around here. Maybe I'm just judging too harshly and I'm reading into things. And then the night of my husband's graduation, we get back at like midnight at our Airbnb and everything's great. We're like in the afterglow of the wonderful day. And the next morning at 7 a.m., I walk out to get my makeup bag out of my car and I notice there's some shiny stuff on the ground and realize that a cinder block has been thrown through my passenger side window and a giant cinder block is sitting on the front floor of my car. And I'm like, cool. And it was an absolute nightmare. We had to try and get the window fixed when we were not home because we didn't want to drive with like plastic. That's so unsafe. Like we would have no visibility out of that side of the car for 15 hours because that's how far we were from home. It was just an absolute disaster. It ended up being fine. We worked it out, but man, it was a lot. And it made me a little bit off of travel, but unfortunately, I'm traveling a lot this summer. So I'm hoping I can take a couple notes from the wonderful guest that I have today. He shared some of his tips for travel because he is a nationally and I guess internationally, because he was also in Canada, touring comedian, Joe Dombrowski. He went by Mr. D for a long time. He got famous back in 2017. He had a viral April Fool's Day spelling test prank. And that got him huge appearances on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And he has been working, he said I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to tell you exactly when he started comedy, but it's however young you're thinking he started comedy, it's younger than that. And he's just such a delight and really has such a passion for education and for the students that are in our schools. And I just cannot wait for you to hear all about what we talked about. So let's get right to it. I am so excited today about our guest, it's Joe Dombrowski, but you go by Mr. D 3 times.
I used to. The artist formerly known as Mr. D, yeah.
I love it. And you are now a full-time touring comedian all over the freaking North America from what I was looking at. You were and also touring with some of my favorite humans. You just did some shows with Sam Salem, right?
Yes, Sam's a good friend of mine. Yes. So funny too.
Yeah. So can you share a little bit how you went from, because it started out as, well, I actually don't know if it started out as pre-K stuff. Why don't you share where all of this stuff got started?
Okay. First of all, I just want to take over your podcast for a
Yes, please.
second? I'm a bit of a... Do I have to watch my language on this one?
No, we bleep if it's a problem. It's fine.
Okay. I'm a bit of a watch. I love watches. I collect watches. And your watch game is already strong. Can we talk about this? What are you wearing?
It's so embarrassing.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
It's from Walmart, though.
So what, girl? Honestly, a deal on a watch, I am all about it because watches can get super expensive. I just found a fake Cartier for $25. You know I bought that.
Nice. Yeah, it's cute. Like just a cute little Walmart watch
it's so cute.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah. There we go.
Okay,
free plug for Walmart.
Just kidding. Okay. So the artist formerly known as Mr. D. There's a story behind that. You know how these like teach-fluencers... Are you still teaching?
I'm a professor now. So not currently active in the high school classroom. Yeah.
I knew that. One thing that always bothered me, even when I was in the classroom, is like this. When I started doing like putting comedy on Instagram, the teaching world was starting to like grow on Instagram too. And thus came this thing called a teach-fluencer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one pet peeve is when these hoes are out there acting like they're still teaching and they're not. And I have the receipts. So like, stop putting a fake classroom together. You're in a warehouse, Jillian, okay? These aren't real papers. That's a stack of loose leaf that you just opened. Enough. I hate that. So I was always transparent when I was out of the classroom and I never claimed to still be in. So I've been out of the classroom for about 5 years now. But the biggest question is always like, so you're, or biggest misconception, you're a teacher turned comic. And that's actually not true. So I grew up in a very big comedy family. I was watching stand-up at too young of an age. And I did stand up for the first time when I was 8 years old for my third grade talent show.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's like always been the goal. So then I really started to dabble in comedy in college, loved it, kept doing it through my student teaching, kept doing it through my early teaching career. But it was always like, you say one wrong thing as a teacher and you're outie, right?
Yeah.
So I was always just like so protective of my comedy. And I wanted it to go bigger, but I was so scared about teaching. So I actually went by a different name on stage and like all this stuff. And then I had a group of parents come to the show and I didn't know. And they didn't know that I was like on the show. So I was like, oh, what do I do? And I just like did my normal act and they ended up loving it. But then it started to like catch on like wildfire. So like now the staff is coming and my principal's coming. Luckily, they all liked it. But what took it to the next level is when I started to talk about funny things that were happening in the classroom online. And just a video of mine went massively, massively viral. You may be familiar. I pranked my students with a fake spelling test on April Fool's Day. Went stupid viral. And from there, I was able to continue to grow my comedy career digitally to the point where I was able to step away from the classroom and really, really do my passion, which has always been comedy.
That's awesome. So how long were you teaching and what grades?
So collectively, I've taught 10 years. And yes, I consider my student teaching one of those years because you're teaching full-time for free. So who's ever not including that, that's insane.
Yeah.
So I taught for 9. And then those 9 years were everything 3rd to 6th grade. And then I left the classroom to go on tour for the first time. And then this beautiful thing called COVID-19 happened. And I lost all of my tour dates. And I was just like, oh my God, I was just getting started. So I went back into the classroom. And that's when I taught kindergarten, which I always wanted. My whole career I wanted, but I student taught 5th and got pigeonholed as an upper L person. So I was never given those kindergarten opportunities. So when I was going back, I was like, I have the credentials. they need teachers more than I need to teach.
Yeah.
So it's kindergarten or nothing. And I got a job teaching kindergarten. And honestly, it was one of the best years of my career.
Oh
It was
my gosh.
fantastic. I
I
loved it.
cannot imagine. Did you have anything that happened that completely shocked you working with kinders as opposed to working with some of the older kids?
Yeah, I knew it would be chaos. I did not know to what level. And I really underestimated their lack of independence, which is so I love it. But if you're not expecting it, it can really catch you off guard. So like one of the things that happened on one of my first couple days was I had them all on their iPads doing like some reading something, and they all had their headphones in, and it was like the over the head headphones plugged in. And I said, okay, let's clean up. It's time to go to lunch. And these kindergartners just stood up and walked to the door. Headphones still on. So cue 20 iPads just flying across the desk, slamming onto the floor. And then they're like, oh, whoops. And it's just like, no, kindergartners are so oblivious. And everything is a step. So it's all like, I didn't realize you have to go, okay, everybody, take off your headphones. Wait for them all to have their headphones. Unplug your headphones. Okay. The first 5 rows, come turn them in. The second 5 rows, come turn them in. Now the first 4 rows, go put your iPad away. Now you all line up. And then, girl, wintertime, trying to get those boots on, trying to get those jackets on. The best part of kindergarten is that I would say 25% of your day is actually teaching because the rest is just like steps.
I believe that. My daughter's in kindergarten right now. And
oh, cool.
I went in one day to help, and I just like helped make gingerbread houses. And so I was thinking like, this is going to be so fun. I'm going to get to like, the way that the teacher just orchestrated the kids' behavior and was like so patient. Like you said, like every single thing had a step. And I'm used to high school. I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to make gingerbread houses over here. And she's like, okay, you are going to work on this. You are going to work on this. And like step by step broke everything down. I could never have because my brain just doesn't work in sequential order, I think.
Yep. One of the things that surprised me the most too was my own patience. Like I couldn't believe how cool, calm, and collected I was with these kids like the entire time. Yeah. But then put me out in the streets and I'm like Mr. Road Rage, right? But like in the classroom, I was just thriving. I don't know. It was so rewarding and so much fun. And just like watching the littlest learners like realize how to function in society. It's just cool. I loved it. I would go back and do it again in a different life, but not this one. But it was great. I'm so glad that I had that experience.
Yeah. So it was mostly like kindergarten through, you said 6th grade?
Yes, except for 1st and 2nd are the only grades that I haven't taught.
Okay. So now, were there ever anything that happened in your class where you felt like you were wildly unprepared? Like a mistake you made, especially early on in your career, where you're like, oh, that shouldn't have done that?
Yeah, I think my first couple years teaching, I was like learning the lines of like, these are your coworkers, not exactly your friends yet, So I was very jokey. I was that young 22-year-old, and like looking back on it, I was probably kind of annoying. But luckily at this first job, I got along with the vast majority of that school, and they were super tight knit, which was great. But I was still like, goofing around and stuff like that, which kind of, there's a time and a place for it. I had to learn time and place.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things was my very first principal let me learn trial by fire. So if I wanted to do something, she was pretty much always saying yes, because she was like, let him learn. Like, I wanted class pets. And she was like, sure. And then I was like, never again. Yeah. Like
what
stuff
class
like
pet?
that. I had a rabbit. We had a few snakes. We had a frog, a Pac-Man frog. It was a lot.
And why never again? Because I remember in my kindergarten class, the snake, Rosie Boa, that then the school I went to was K-12. And so like as the snake would get bigger, it would like follow us through into the different classes. So why is it a no?
Oh, wow. Specifically, the rabbit was a no because it's just a shit machine. The room was covered in E. coli Cadbury eggs by noon every single day. I was breaking every OSHA violation imaginable just from the fecal matter alone. And like, I was all like, oh, her name was Rosie the reading rabbit. And then I would open her cage and she would hop into somebody's lap. And then if she hopped in your lap during silent reading, then you got to read out loud to her, which I was like, that's so cute.
That is so cute.
It was, except Rosie was a bitch and she did not hop in anybody's lap. She would just stomp her feet, hiss at these children, and then shit by them and hop away.
I did not know that rabbits can hiss.
I did not know that rabbits could hiss.
I thought they were so sweet and gentle. Like, apparently.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I have to make notes in my this is all my stand-up right here.
Yeah.
It goes on forever.
Nice.
And when something hits me to take on the stage, I do it. So Rosie hissing is a good one.
So funny. Yeah. I have a friend who literally she sent me a video explaining how much she loves her little rabbit that she bought and how it's the best pet.
Get it out of here.
She said that she's got it like litter trained. You can apparently...
Okay, she's lying. I tried to litter train Rosie. You can't fucking litter train a rabbit. So this woman's, first of all,
Rosie,
lying.
Yeah.
Whoever
Rosie,
she is, she's canceled. I hope she's listening right now. You're a liar. You lied. You never lied so much. You should go on Jerry Springer with that lion-ass mouth.
Oh my gosh. That's tragic. So what about the snakes?
This is my rabbit trauma. The snakes were super easy to take care of. They were great. One got out. That was horrifying. And then one day, he was gone for like a week. And then one day he was just like, there was like one of my ceiling tiles had a crack in it and the snake's just like hanging out. I was like, everyone watch this movie real quick.
Did the kids freak out?
I don't think they were even in the room when it happened, actually.
Okay.
I think it was like after school, like grading papers or something, but it was very...
Surprise snakes are not it. Like,
surprise snakes are not it, yeah.
Yeah, I could not.
Oh, and the snake would shit a lot too.
They do,
like, I would
all
like
those
let
living
him
animals.
I would let him like slither on the floor and we'd be in a circle, and if he like came to you, you got to pick him up. But he would just like lift his little tail and just... And snake... not fun. I'm so sorry. This is a very fecal episode.
It's all right.
You wanted me on. So.
That's right.
Hey.
Exactly. So
yeah.
You started doing stand-up you were doing stand-up since you were 8. And after COVID is when it kind of took off for you. Now, you're touring kind of everywhere now. Do you ever run into any former students? Because you taught for 10 years. So they're probably
all the time. Funny story. I just did huge shows I'm originally from Michigan. So I just went back and did some shows in Michigan. And one of my former students from the class that I had, Rosie, came. He was a very special kid. And he goes, hey, I have a present for you. I was like, okay, what is it? And it was this kid was a hoarder. Like always. He had this like tiny little, like, one of those cases that you would get from like a 50-cent machine, but small.
Yeah.
And he opened it up and it was like cotton. And I'm like, what is this? He goes, this is Rosie's fur.
Oh!
I'm like, Cole, you are 21. You were 9. Why do you have this? Why? Literally, I'm going to call the show hoarders to come clean your room. This is terrible.
The kid's a serial killer. Did he did he cut it off? Like, how did he collect all that fur?
No, Rosie shedded a lot. She shedded.
She shed
yeah.
a lot?
Yeah. She shed a lot. She shed a lot. So he would just like pick it up and collect. But when you teach those younger grades too, I remember some kids, I'd just be, when they come in from recess, empty your pocket. Now we have a floor full of rocks.
Yeah.
Those are fossils. They're not. They are playground stones and you're not bringing them in. Thank you.
1000% that is my son. Like, he is that kid that's like just collecting random rocks and shells. My kids, we just were in Boston and they collected all like beach trash, like shards of glass that they're like, it's a crystal. And I was like, that's a Corona bottle, but all
Yeah.
right. And
That's hepatitis, actually.
exactly. And so we just got back from our trip and now it's like Lord of the Flies trying to argue over the different items that they each say that they collected on the beach. And I'm like, it's all trash. It's all trash. Kids love a good pile of trash though. They're basically raccoons that can speak. It's awful.
I remember that there was a video that I saw recently of this mom like opened her son's backpack and she was just pulling out. It was full to the brim of grass, just grass,
What?
just grass. They were just, I don't know, just tons of grass.
Oh my gosh. I will say and I'm so ashamed of this now, but I was definitely the kid who had various stages of decomposing fruit at the bottom of my backpack. Like I was that kid.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah,
like there would be a banana down there, maybe a half-eaten apple, stuff like that. Were you
for sure.
organized like as a student?
Oh no, I was definitely brewing prison hooch at the bottom of my backpack too, for sure. I was a mess. A
Yeah.
mess. I still am. Girl, you're so lucky you can't see this desk right now. It's bad. It's not good.
But with all of the travel you're doing, do you feel like you've like hit a stride of like keeping organized or is it just always chaos?
Yes, I do. Like I order in bulk all my travel supplies. So I have bins that are just full of like my travel size deodorant, my travel size hairspray, my travel size hair gel, toothpaste, toothbrushes. I'm running a tiny little CVS in one cabinet of my bathroom.
Nice.
For sure.
So that's keeping it.
Keeps it easy. And then also I have like doubles of everything. So I have like 2 backpacks. One I don't empty out. So it's always got one phone charger in there. I don't have to worry about unplugging one. I have 2 sets of headphones. One doesn't leave my backpack. So I can just, put whatever I need in that backpack and go because it's got the rest of it in there.
Nice.
So I've gotten pretty good at that. Like multiple pairs of shoes, things like that.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
do you think it is more stressful doing what you do now?
To be a teacher. The end. To be a teacher. Here's something crazy. I love this podcast because usually I'm on with not a teacher, so they don't fully get it.
Yeah.
I am currently working at the most insane rate that I've ever worked in my life. I'm gone literally every weekend. I'm on 6 planes a week. Like it is chaos, my life currently. Okay. I'm a night worker. Like my job starts at 6 p.m. Like it's nuts.
Yeah.
And I've never been more well rested in my life. That says a lot about education and being a teacher.
Yeah. I
Truly.
That's exactly it. I try and explain that to people like now that I'm working at the university level and stuff and I've had professors ask me like, "Oh, how are you doing? Like it's a lot starting a new job." And I'm like, this is so much easier. This is so
I know.
Oh my gosh, like I sleep. I have time to grocery shop.
There's nothing like waking up at your own like body clock. Also, like getting things done, going to the bank, going grocery shopping when it's not full on a Sunday. Like no more. Gone are the days when I go to Costco on a Sunday and get my ankles slammed by Peggy who can't control her litter of children who are running around unattended. No, I go on Mondays when nobody's there because I can.
Yeah. And honestly, that cannot be overstated how amazing that is. Costco in particular is my personal hell. I get so stressed out every time I go into Costco. And my mom, we threw a graduation party for my husband and we had literally like 1 hour before people were going to be showing up. And my mom's like, "Well, you know what you need for the party other than like the pizza? You got to get some like charcuterie." And we had come from out of town. So I was like, "It's casual. We'll just do pizza and beer. It's fine." And I was like, "No, let's go to Costco." And I was like, "We have 1 hour." And she is like, "No, let's go." And so we show up to Costco. It is pouring down rain. There is no parking. She has to drop me off at the front with my kindergartner daughter. And I have to wait for a cart for somebody to leave. And then going into this Costco that is unfamiliar, I was like, this is my hell, what we are doing right now. And she's like, "It's fine." I was like, "I don't know where anything is." She's like, "It's great. It's going to be great." And we barely, because, they go through lines quickly. But I just hate how it just feels so close in there. Even though the aisles are big,
Yeah, it does. Well, the carts are the size of a Mack truck, so that doesn't help.
Huge. Absolutely enormous. And I'm like, this is my actual hell, what is happening right now. It was
It
terrible.
is hell, but it is definitely my heaven. I didn't know that I needed to buy in bulk. We currently have a family of 2. I have no business buying in bulk, but I just love it.
I love the idea
I bought a deep
of it.
freezer specifically because of my Costco habits.
Yeah. I always have like these great aspirations, but instead what happens is I use the first like serving of 15 pounds of ground beef and the rest of it just ferments in my fridge.
We love that.
Yeah. So I'm like, this was a massive waste of energy and money.
Fully.
Mm-hmm. So do you have a most embarrassing classroom moment?
I definitely have made some mistakes. This isn't funny as much as it's like a learning situation.
Right. No, we're only doing funny. No learning in this podcast.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just kidding.
I was like, this will never leave me. Like, this is with me for the rest of my life. I very much thought you know how they say like a moment you'll always remember how you felt. You won't necessarily remember like what it was about.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that I thought this kid did something, like didn't turn something in, so he had to miss some celebration or whatever it was. And I was like, no, like I wasn't yelling, I was just being calm. And I was like, you can't, I'm sorry, these are the rules. Like I have to stick with my guns on this. I'm so sorry. This kid's like crying, bawling his eyes out, trying to explain to me. And I'm like, I know. And I think I even told him like, I understand you're crying. You're crying because you're mad at yourself. I'm so sorry. And then like minutes later, I discovered something that he was correct, right? And he's like crying in front of his friends. And I remember being like, this sucks, but this is so important for them to see how this is handled so they know how to handle things moving forward. So I kind of made a thing about it in front of everybody. And I was like, hey, Andrew, I understand what just happened. I want to let you know that I did find this stuff. You were 100% right. I was incorrect, and that is my fault for not double checking. You know, it doesn't always go this way, but you are right. And because of this, I'd like to invite you and a friend to have lunch with me tomorrow. I'll bring in pizza. We'll do the whole thing. And I remember being like, I'm not trying to like give myself kudos or anything, but it was just really important to be visual because teaching is a position of power for sure over very impressionable minds. And I do think, and I've seen so many times teachers who just like think that you are the almighty. And it's just like, we're as teachers, like we're people too. Yeah. And it's modeling like good human behavior is, in my opinion, more important sometimes than the academics. Yeah. Because they just need to realize, you know, how to function in these situations. And I don't know if it ever has, but I'm hoping that at some day kids will kind of like reflect on what happened and be like, no, you have to admit your faults when they happen. Yeah. You can't just like roll with it. Yeah. So that was embarrassing for me, but important too. Yeah. And I was very young. I think it was my second year teaching. So I was only like 23.
Yeah. I had something similar happen. But this was before my teaching career. I was in high school and there was this girl who was in our friend group who was a compulsive liar. Like I had known her since like 5th grade. And she had convinced me at one point that she had a signed, like an autograph of Jonathan Taylor Thomas because I was in love with him. I was going to marry him and have
weren't we all?
Yeah. His perfect haired babies. Right. And so she had like signed it and given it to me. And I was so excited about it. I brought it to my mom and my mom's like, I don't think that's real. And so this girl has like a pattern of just lying, right? So I've known this girl for years and years. We get to high school and she starts telling us about this boyfriend who goes to another school, right? And I'm like, bull. There is no boyfriend. She's like, he's got a blue mohawk, right? This is like 2003, right? So that was cool then, all right? Like,
yeah.
He was like,
Sum 41.
100%, right? So like she was like, yeah, he's like really edgy. He's got a blue mohawk. And he like came over to my house and like picked me up. And I was like, and we were sitting at the lunch table with all of our friends.
You called her
and I called her out. I was like, you're lying. And she's like, no, I'm not. And I was like, yeah, you are. I was like, that's a lie. I don't believe you. We've invited you like 4 things, told you to bring them. And every time something comes up, you're lying. And she's like, I'm not. I was like, all right, whatever. I don't believe you. And everyone was just, because everyone had been saying for weeks, she's lying. She's a guy with a blue mohawk who has like a truck and is picking bull. There's no way. But of course, I'm the only one who's like, let me seek justice and truth here.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then we all go hang out at Starbucks that weekend. And who shows up but the blue mohawked guy that she was dating with her, hand in hand. And I just remember being like, damn it. Like, this was the wrong place to stake my claim. Like, so then at lunch, I did the same as you. I was like, hey, listen, I just want to say I'm really sorry. Clearly, you were not lying. That was my bad. And she's like, yeah, it was your bad. And I was like, oh man.
Good. I know. I wanted that little kid to like cap my ass too and be like, yeah, you were fucking wrong, Mr.
Yeah, exactly. She did. She was like, you were 100% wrong. And I was like, yeah. I mean, she still, I think, was a compulsive liar 80% of the time, but I happened to hit on the 20% that she was telling the truth. So then I just shut up whenever she told her crazy stories from then on, because I'm like, listen, had you not given me a falsified Jonathan Taylor Thomas autograph in 5th grade.
But the justification still checks out, ma'am. Just so you know, I was wrong in doing it on this instance. However,
the premise is still sound.
You are the little girl who cried boyfriend.
Exactly.
Just so you know.
Exactly. All right. So we are going to take a quick break. And when we get back, I'm going to have Joe give us more of his sage advice. So be right back. All right. Welcome back to Those Who Can't Do. So I would love to know, it's been 5 years since you were in the classroom, but when you were there, what were some of the resources that you tended to go for? Like, was there a specific, seller on Teachers Pay Teachers or a book that you really liked?
Oh my God. Teachers Pay Teachers, the hardest eye roll. Yeah. Damn. Are you one of those girls?
What? That sells?
Yeah.
I have stuff on there, but I don't push it hard.
Okay. First of all, what a scam.
Oh my God.
But also get it, girls. Come on, sell your shit, make your coin. I'm all about that hustle. Funny enough, I taught in Title I my entire career, but 1 year I taught in private school. Mm-hmm. And first of all, it was the least money I ever made my teaching career.
Yep.
And 2, literally $32,000 a year for tuition per kid, regardless if you have siblings. $32K. And I am talking 0 resources for the teachers. I was like, this is nuts. I don't exactly think we need a butterfly garden, everyone, but I could use some curriculum over here.
Yeah.
I get this job, and I was at my first team meeting, okay? I'm not shitting you, Andrea. 100% of the reading and math curriculum was TPT resources. I literally said, this is insane. Some of them were so old too. Some of the resources were handwritten and then copied for years and years and years. I went to the department lead and I was like, hey, don't know if you know that this is happening, but I'm pretty sure that if these rich ass parents find out that they could just buy these resources for $2 online and then just give it to their kids at home, they're going to have an issue with this.
Yeah.
I.e., if I send my kids to this school and this shit's going on, let me tell you, it's not going on.
Right.
There's no data proving that any of this works. Okay, I'm anti-data when it gets in the way of student growth, i.e. an IEP. I think the IEP system needs a full revamp because it's criminal how we are telling teachers to collect so much data to the point that by the time the IEP goes into effect, they're in the next grade or even the next grade, right? And then you just pass it on to this teacher and expect them to leave off when they haven't been in school for 2 months for summer. I digress. Anyway, but data is important to show that something works. Data-driven instruction is important. Like you can follow Fontes and Pinnell and watch a child's reading go from 0 to hero. Like you are following data-driven instruction, right?
Right.
But the majority of TPT is just like some lady who has some activity and she made it digital so you can buy it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm not buying it. I might as well buy friggin' essential oils and say this teaches you to read. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
You're going to
So
piss
that-
off so many of my listeners, Joe.
Let them. I don't give a fuck. Come on, girl. Be real with yourself. But also make your coin. I'm getting it because there are these places that are still buying it. So if you're selling some shit and people are buying it, people are buying it. That doesn't mean your shit's good because I have shopped at H&M before too. So, we'll just say what it is. But the fact that it was a full
wild to
curriculum.
me.
They bought from different sellers to create some sort of like Mod Podge of learning. Not for me.
I cannot.
That was actually the opposite
fathom
of your
that.
question, by the way.
No,
you asked me
but-
what's my favorite. I told you what I don't like.
but like that is insane, and I can't believe that there wasn't like someone in charge of curriculum, because I had a similar experience at a private school where I made the least money I've ever made and was given the least amount of resources and was also given 5 preps to teach. And so I had to.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so they gave me like, oh, these are the learning goals. And they handed that to me. And they were like, go teach. And I was like, the learning goals are this. You want me to teach 15 novels between these 5 preps to all of these kids. Do we have resources? Do we have a curriculum? Nope. We have this one textbook for supplemental resources that has some poetry in it, but nothing has been updated since like 1993. And I'm like,
yep.
Cool. Got it. So I did go to Teachers Pay Teachers for probably more than I should have. But at that point, I also had like my master's and stuff. So I was able to kind of suss out what would be good. And I wrote a lot of my own stuff. But again, it's like you're not helping teachers by not providing curriculum resources. And I feel like...
Hey, and that right too, TPT is awesome for teachers who are in your situation. You have to be able to know like sift the good shit from the bullshit.
Yeah.
And that is great. That's why I'm grateful that it's there too. But at the same time too, isn't it crazy that there's no statistic here. I'm just kind of spitballing. I would guess that the majority of schools and districts in this country are in the situation that you just said, where it's like, hey, this is what you have to teach. This is the time to do it. We have no resources. Go for it. Mm-hmm. However, the success of your teaching is how you are evaluated. And it's like, you are being evaluated by having no resources on the same scale as this other teacher from a bougie public school that has unlimited resources, and you're both being evaluated the same way based on your success. That's why the distribution of wealth in public school districts in this country is, I will never not talk about it. It's unreal. The funding of public schools is unbelievable.
Well, I was just over for my husband's graduation. I was in New Haven, Connecticut. Have you ever been to New Haven?
I haven't, but it sounds like a gem of a city based off of what we're doing right now.
I have never. I've been to Chicago, LA, New York. I've been to big cities. I have never felt so unsafe so consistently in one city. I was like, we were there for like 4 or 5 days. If you were on campus at Yale, beautiful, it was fine. But the second you stopped off campus, it was wildly unsafe. I ended up getting my car. Somebody put a cinder block through the window and stole my makeup bag. And like, it looked like a makeup bag. It didn't look like a purse. It wasn't like name brand or anything like that. They just jacked it. I'm guessing for Mother's Day. It was like, it happened Friday night. So maybe it was a Mother's Day gift, which is lovely. But they stole that, put a cinder block through my window. And I went to Walmart while we were there. And I have never been stared at like that, like aggressively stared at. You know, like when you walk in and you can tell like,
uncomfortably,
I'm not in the right place right now. Like I felt that way the whole time I was there. And I'm like, what is this town? And it's in like New Haven, Connecticut is basically just Yale and the surrounding suburbs. And it is so impoverished. And I'm like, if you are Yale and you have one of the largest endowments of any university in the world, you can't do something about this? Like, you can't make sure those schools are the best schools in the country? Like, are you kidding me?
Unbelievable?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I just kept thinking, like, if I were head of Yale, right? Like, if they made me president of Yale, number one, the teacher education program, which I actually don't know if they have one, but they would if I was head of Yale. And the entire thing would be making sure that they are helping the schools, giving resources to the schools. And
let's talk about this too,
Ugh.
girl. I'm walking a tightrope with this one. Okay, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna speak my truth. Feel free to cut it if you're just not into it.
Okay.
Teach for America is the biggest crock of that I've ever had in my life. Here's why. How the actual fuck does anyone think that it is helpful to take 22-year-olds fresh out of college from degrees that they've studied that are majority did not study education, and you're going to put them in the most underperforming, lack of privilege, decrepit schools in this country, and you're going to expect those people to make actual change?
Yeah.
Teach for America should be taking the most highly effective, seasoned, experienced teachers in this country, paying them exponential amounts of money to do a 3 to 5 year residency in these areas to actually make change for these kids who need people who understand education, how this works, how to make it better, how to continue to push forward, push the boundaries, push back against Congress, push back against the local government to make sure that these kids are getting what they need. There are schools in this country that don't even have the internet. The internet. And we're expecting a 22-year-old to just like sit there in a classroom where they barely even have enough desks for the kids, and they're going to talk back to the hires ups to get what these kids need. I'm so sorry, but it is absolute bullshit. And we're just continuing to fund programs like this that are doing what, Andrea?
Mm-hmm.
Doing what?
100% agree.
It's unreal. It's unreal. Well, it's unbelievable.
They always sell it to the students as like, well, this is a free way to get your teacher education and stuff.
Which is the biggest slap in the face to people who did not go the free way. Isn't that crazy? Like, listen to what we just said. That's crazy.
Yeah. And it also is putting the least prepared people in the classrooms with the highest need, which is wild to do.
3-week crash course. Go
is that all they do?
Yes. From the people who I've talked to who have done it, and granted, the people who I know who have done it, this was at least 10 years ago when they were in the program. 3-week crash course. Go have fun. And I'm talking about schools with like daily threats of gun violence. I'm talking about schools, like I just said, with in food deserts.
Yeah.
In Wi-Fi deserts. Like, and 3 weeks is going to prepare. No, I'm talking teachers with 10 years plus experience. They're going to immediately sign up to make over $100,000 per year when they serve in this program to go and work and make change. I am so sorry, but like, is there another way?
Right.
Because and you want to know the best part about all this? This program, show me the growth. Show me that it's working.
Yeah.
Because I'm so sorry, these schools are still underperforming.
Yeah. Well, and it's like somebody watched Freedom Writers one time and they were like, let me fix it.
Oh.
Like, let's put a lot of like random, like, let's just throw some kids in there. We know they're not going to last, but that's fine. At least they won't have college debt after they don't last in the classroom. And then they burn out after 2 years because of course they do, you know, like that's really interesting. I had never thought about the Teach for America program like that before, because I've known a couple people that have thought about it, but I don't think I've ever actually talked to anyone who's gone through it before.
And the majority of the people who I know who have gone through it don't teach. They like did the program and now they're at some big tech company doing, using that as their leg up to advance their resume. And it's just like, I'm so sorry. But here's the thing too, if people aren't vocal about this, then we're not doing anything. So I'm unapologetically speaking my mind on the topic because it's wild. And that's a thing about leaving the classroom. I truly feel like I no longer have a target on my back, and I am privileged to have such a massive audience. Although it's not all about teaching anymore, and I'm not doing that, my audience is continuing to grow in this comedy space. And as my platform grows, I'll always use it to advocate for education because it's such an important thing to me, but not only me, but like the children of this country. It's insane.
Yeah.
So using my experience to now use my platform to like push back and make change without a target on my back, like that's the name of the game. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking on another podcast earlier today, and we were talking about how I feel like I have such a responsibility to speak up when I'm seeing things with these teachers, because like I'm at a university now, so I can go into rooms and the superintendent and all of those people are going to look at me a little bit differently than if I was working at the local high school, because I've got a PhD and I work at the university. I know less about these schools than these teachers do. They should not be listening to me. They should be listening to their teachers. But because now I have a bunch of other garbage behind my name, they're like, oh, let's listen to her. I'm like, I'm going to say what they tell me needs to be said to you. Because I found out, I'm so heated about this still. I found out
me too.
One of the local schools had the AC go out, and it was 85 degrees in the classroom. And they were told by district that they weren't going to be able to fix it until next, end of fall is what they said, is when they could fix it. The rage that I had. I immediately emailed the mayor, because the mayor of our small town is like a sweet, precious baby angel. He's like 28. And I contacted the news, and I did everything I could to be very, very vocal about it. But I also was trying to be careful, because the way I found out was the teacher at the school had posted about it, and I didn't want her to get backlash.
Good for you. Yeah, that was respectful.
Right. Trying to make sure she didn't get heat. But I cannot believe for 1 second that if the AC unit in the superintendent's office was messed up, it would be fixed in a week, if not earlier.
And even worse, if it was Microsoft or Apple, it would be fixed within an hour.
Yep.
If any Apple store, the AC went out, they'd have someone there immediately. Isn't that some shit, girl?
Yeah. That we are valuing those things, or people, the superintendent over in their office is getting all the comfort in the world, while the students, these kids, are going to have to sit in classrooms at 85 degrees. No one can learn in that scenario. I couldn't sit it gets me so heated. And I do feel like that's one of the profound privileges of having the platforms we have, is to be able to speak up for stuff like that. I had something else earlier this week. I watched a video. This woman was talking about how I'm absolutely not going to, I'm just trying not to be specific enough to get more views on her videos. But she was talking about she was answering a question. And the question was somebody saying there was a kindergartner who had to be restrained 11 times in the school year. They have an IEP, and it should they be moved to self-contained? And the woman was like, why on earth would a kindergartner ever need to be restrained? Why on earth would anyone ever lay hands on a child? Is kind of the vibe of it.
Oh my God.
My blind, her disgust at the teacher for restraining the kindergartner. And I am so I was so angry, because I'm I never comment on stuff on Instagram or TikTok that I disagree with, because it's not worth it, right? But
it's not worth it.
But now that I have this platform and I see something that is within my field, within my niche, and all of that, I did put a comment in there.
Good for you.
And was like, listen, this take is wildly blind to the fact that this teacher had to physically restrain a child 11 times. That is traumatizing to the teacher. That is traumatizing to the child and to the classmates. And it completely ignores the fact that the only time that ever happens is if the child is a danger to themselves or others. They're not doing it for fun. There are valid reasons. And if it's happening 11 times, and a lot of people were commenting least restrictive environment. And I was like, but sometimes self-contained is the best thing for that child. Not always.
Right.
But
yeah.
If they're following the IEP and they're still having to be restrained, something's not right. Something should be done. Right. And I had a couple people message me and try and push back a little bit. And it was, it's people whose kids are in special education programs. And I do try and be really empathetic when we're dealing with these topics about not coming on so strong and being so clear that my heart is is for both sides of that. Like my heart is for the kid that's being restrained too, that like their needs aren't
Mm-hmm.
being met, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that when you're taking strong stances on this, that you get pushback from parents that are,
Oh yeah, fully. Yeah. I can specifically tell you about a joke that I'm working on right now. I just kind of dabbled into it. I have very strong opinions on the IEP process and how my personal belief is that it's a dated system that is not benefiting the kids to the maximum effect that it should be, because it is a it is a document for students who are more vulnerable, and all students are vulnerable. So I think it needs a full makeover, right? I have a joke about this that very much in a comedic sense. The goal with my comedy always is to make people think. I want you to laugh, 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 laugh. And then I want you to get in your car and turn to the people you came with and be like, but that's so messed up, right? We should do better, right? That's my goal, okay?
yeah,
I have this joke about this, and I had a group of mothers wait at the stage door for me to come out. I'm talking like 6 moms, okay?
geez.
And I was like, I'm toast. I could see there was something on their face. And they told me that they were all a group of friends who became friends because their sons are on the same Special Olympics hockey teams together. And they told me to my face, that joke about your IEP is so unbelievably important because you have only seen it from the teacher's perspective. Imagine being a new parent who you're just learning about this. You're giving the runaround. Everybody's telling you this is how it's supposed to go. And you don't realize how significantly your child is being impacted by this process until it's too late. They said, keep going with that joke, push further with that joke, never stop with that joke. It is important to these kids. And
Awesome.
it like put me in this place of like, I truly get deep sometimes about comedy. I think comedy is so beautiful. I think it brings people together. I think it pushes boundaries. I think it keeps people thinking. I think it entertains in a way that has the power to educate, but also sometimes not, and that's okay too. But I keep going with that joke because of those moms. And I have had other people on the other side push back. And I had another woman, it must have been like not even weeks later, who was upset about that joke. And she came to me and she's like, I am a principal and I am a mother and I have a student my son has an IEP. And if it wasn't for his IEP, he wouldn't get to where he is. And I stopped her and I said, I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about that. Your son's IEP was effective because they had a mother who knew the process, who was able to know going into it exactly what's to be done, who was in a position of power over the people creating the IEP, which automatically pushed them to make sure it was perfect on the first time. I do this joke for the people who don't have a mother like you, who is caring enough to take the time to fully dissect, to ask the questions, to understand, to make sure it's pushing forward on a appropriate timeline and in the right directions. I tell that joke for people who are not born into a life with someone like you, who's able to make sure that it's being done with due diligence.
Yeah.
And she still wanted to fight me on it. And I said to her, that's the beauty of comedy. You don't have to disagree. I just stood up there for an hour giving you my opinions on life. You don't have to disagree. And I said, that's okay. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that was how we ended it. But I was
Nice.
just like, I'm not going to back down because like I have an opinion on the matter.
Yeah.
These are my bold opinions and I strongly believe in what I'm saying and I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
100%, by the way, because I know I would sit with parents, at that awkward moment where you're waiting for everyone to show up before the IEP meeting. And it's like you and the parent and like one other person that you never see except for at faculty meetings. And you're like, and they're asking you all these questions and they're nervous and they're scared. And I got to experience this a little bit from the parent perspective because at the beginning of the year, my daughter, I got called in by the teacher and her teacher was basically like, hey, your daughter's falling behind in reading. And I'm an English teacher. Like I've been reading to her since like before she could walk. Like my heart just broke and I felt really confused and really judged, even though the teacher was being so sweet and was not judging me. It was just letting me know, like, hey, we got to work together on this. And it was such an educational experience for me from the perspective of being the parent in that scenario that, like, wow, it is really, really hard to be on the other side of this table, hearing that, hey, your kid might need other help. Your kid might have something else going on. And you get so like critical of yourself as the parent, like, wow, what did I do? Why is my kid struggling with this? And why, and I trying to figure like, wow, did I let them have too much TV or like, and I think that, and I come from it from the perspective of like having a terminal degree in education. I can't imagine for a parent who has a high school degree or a college degree and is not in education and are sitting there with all of these people. Like, I don't know what any of these terms mean. I don't know what this acronym means. Like all of that it's so frustrating when you just want what's best for your child.
Yeah, absolutely. And that never stops. That never stops. That'll continue forever. And it can be jarring too,
Yeah.
especially. But I think the end of the day too is one of the things that people don't realize, especially with the way that education is going, is every child is different. Like you just said, like you read to your kid every day, you're majored in English, like all of that too. Every single child is different. Yet we're putting these curriculums in front of teachers. And I did make a statement about curriculums earlier that they're important because I think teachers need the resources. But the problem with curriculums too is when teachers start looking at curriculums so linear, by the book, needs to happen. A curriculum is kind of like a guide for what you need to be doing, where you're going, and has the resources embedded. But every kid and every group of kids that you get every single year, they're their own body. They work in different ways. If you're teaching the curriculum verbatim, you are saying to the kids, you are a machine. I do this, you produce this. And that's just not, we're dealing with people here,
Yeah.
So I always tell teachers, young teachers, like a curriculum is a skeleton with the resources, and you're taking the resources and that's the meat that you're putting on the bone in the way that you need to.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Like if you have students that are excelling past the curriculum and you're just teaching the curriculum as is, you're also doing those students a disservice because you were handed a group of kids who are able to rise to the occasion, but you're not giving them more to enrich them and do more. It's just like, and I also think, here's a radical opinion. I think it is crazy that we have one teacher per classroom, specifically in elementary.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I cannot fathom
What?
being with the same group of students all day because I only ever did high school. So like the thought of sitting, like if you have a kid that drives you nuts, that kid will drive you nuts 180 days that year. Like all day, 180 days. Like there is no escape. That kid will be there all day. I cannot. And especially for subplans. Okay, let me ask you this because I don't think I've ever asked an elementary teacher this.
Girl, tap into my trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. When you do a subplan as an elementary teacher, because I fill up 50 minutes, right? Or 60 minutes, whatever, as a subplan. And then they rinse and repeat the rest of the day. Do you guys go and break it down for the entire day?
Yeah, it's insane. And then if you're out multiple days, it's different every single day. So my subplans, what I would do is I would literally lay it out on a table by subject, by hour, with sticky notes above that would say like this time to this time. It would have all the handouts, all the reading materials, all the everything. Then you're going to transition into this. Here's all the handouts. Here's what they're reading. Here's what they're doing. And it was literally like 7 piles of things for them to do throughout the day. And that's why as elementary teachers, any elementary teacher will agree with this, it is harder to be sick than to just go in and muddle through it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I feel like secondary teachers feel that somewhat, depending on how many preps they have, it might be the same. When I had 5 preps, I felt that way. But then, when I had 2 preps, I was like, it'll take me half an hour to get everything ready for tomorrow. But that is a whole different level that I had never thought about for elementary teachers because you are just with them.
Psychotic.
Yeah. That's painful. Speaking of psychotic, so one of the things that we do is I get submissions of questions from my listeners. And one of the questions that we both get to take a stab at is for teacher interviews. What are some horror stories or what are your interview tips? I have a horror story.
Go for it.
Oh, God. Okay. It's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. Okay, so first time I was looking for a teaching job, I was in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and I had just taken like an equity and inclusion type awareness type course, right? So I'm like very ready for
And you come in
diversity.
this like beautiful blonde white woman and you're like, let me tell you about Black
Let me
people.
tell you about Black culture, guys. So I show
Right.
up to this interview. It's at a big job fair, right? And I'm so
Oh
embarrassed.
no. Oh God. I'm
So
literally gonna
I I
oh
go
no.
to
Oh
this
no.
interview with this principal, and she's a Black woman, and she's sitting with me, and she's interviewing me about the school. And the school is one of the ones like in Fredericksburg City, which is more diverse. I think it's like a population of like 40% African American, right? And so she asks me, um, like, what will you do to make sure that the diversity in your class, like it feels safe, basically, right? Easy question, right? And I was trying to think of the phrase, I don't want to judge a book by its cover or something like that. That's what I was trying to get out. But all I could think was like, don't say Black. I don't know why, but that's what was going on in my head. Like, just don't talk about, like, it doesn't matter what ethnicity they are, obviously. Like, I love all of my students and every student is great. And like, I'm trying so hard in my little 20 something brain of like,
Oh.
I want to support and communicate to her that, because in that area, there was some real issues with racism. And that's probably part of why I felt like, and everywhere, right? But like in that area, there was like Confederate flags flying on the freeway, right? Like
Oh.
that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
issues. And so I was trying to communicate that like, I'm not that kind of white, right? Like I am
Right.
here to love my students and to support them and see them for who they are. I couldn't get that out. And so I kind of stumbled and was like, I love all of my students and I just don't want books to be judged by covers.
Oh no.
And I like books. It's kind of where I went to. And she's like, okay. I did not get that job at all.
Yeah.
But it was one of those where I was trying so hard to communicate and to be clear in a way that like it just said like, hey, like I love all of my students. Like I want to have an inclusive environment. I make sure that every student feels seen and heard for who they are. And that's not what I said. I was just like, books, covers. I like books. Like it was so painful. Awful. Haunts me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was my master's is in educational leadership too. So I could be a principal, but I never will. And when I was doing my internship, I sat in that summer on all the interviews that were coming into our school, which was very, very eye-opening because you'd only seen your own, right? And now I'm like seeing like real interviews happen in real life. And I remember there was one candidate who they asked her something and she was just like, yeah, I don't do that. Ugh, I'm messing this up. I'm blowing it. I'm so sorry. I'm not getting this job. Just like outwardly to us. And I was like, girl, fake it till you make it. Like, if you're not showing us that you can like get this together right now, you think we're going to trust you to do this? And and she like left the room and we were all like, yeah, no. Like we didn't even talk about it. Like it was just like, this is a no.
And
this woman's resume was like stacked. She was ready to go. And just like, I'm blowing this. Oh God, it's not happening. Okay, I'm not going to get this job. It was just like, I was like watching her deflate. I was like, this is so awkward to be doing right now.
I can't believe she verbally said that piece out loud.
I also too hate this too. They're always like, I guess there's some legal something behind it about you have to ask every single candidate the same questions. And I remember I was with two different principals in two different interviews, and one principal was so by the book, like these are the questions only, no follow-ups, and the other was like, like pry, like if they're gonna start talking, like and they say something cool, like ask them further about that. And I was like, yeah, because these are people and it's all about connections too. So like, if I'm just asking these questions and letting them go, you want me to make my opinion based off that? No. If someone tells me about this amazing project that they did in their class with their students, I'm going to dig deeper to learn more about it because I think that's interesting and great.
Right. That is like, I feel like she just said aloud what I say in my head every time I'm at an interview is like, this is going poorly. It's going to be bad.
Yeah,
oh God, everything's done.
Straight up. She's like, I'm done. I'm not getting this job. And you didn't, girl, because you put that out there in the world.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Okay. So before you go, can you share with everybody where they can find you, what you've got going on?
Yes, for sure. I'm on a massive tour the rest of the spring and fall. I don't know when this is coming out, but I have announced my fall tour by now. Literally all over the country. You can get tickets at thejoedombrowski.com, and you can follow me on all socials at Joe_Dombrowski.
Awesome. And then you also performed at the Netflix is a Joke Festival, right? Is there anywhere they can see that? Is it streamable anywhere?
No, that one's not. It's not streaming anywhere. I know that was the biggest misconception. People are like, you're going to be on Netflix? No, honey. they just invited me to the festival. How privileged of them. Yeah. So can't watch it yet. Keep your eye out on me. I'm going to be landing a big special one of these days because I'm psycho. I'm putting it out there in the world.
That's right.
It's just a matter of time.
And you do have a special that they can stream, right?
I do. Yes. Don't Eat the Crayons. It's all about my time teaching kindergarten. And that is on YouTube. So you can just type in Don't Eat the Crayons or go to my YouTube page, Joe Dombrowski, and you can watch it there. And leave some love in the comments. Would love to see that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate you coming on. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed my chat with Joe. It's so fun getting to talk to him because I feel like I've followed him for the longest time and he cracks me up. I totally forgot to mention, and I don't know if he mentioned that he's also got a podcast with Gasper Randazzo, who is also blessed us with his presence on this podcast. And I think it's called the Social Studies Podcast. So you guys should definitely check that out as well. It's a lot of silliness with Joe and Gasper. And occasionally they even tour together, and sometimes Sam Salem pops up in there. So lots of folks who have ended up on this podcast are also kind of touring together. So if you guys have enjoyed those, definitely go and check all of that out. It was hilarious to hear about Joe's experience with rabbits, and it has fully confirmed for me that I do in fact not want a rabbit, because my friend who had emailed me or sent me the video and told me how much I would love a rabbit almost had me convinced, and now Joe has saved me from that dark fate. So I asked you guys what your students are up to, and you came in with some winners. The first one is that a student sent a Venmo request during class as a charge for, quote, pain and suffering. It was only $10 though. So I think that teacher needs to work on how much pain and suffering they're causing, because it should be far more, worth far, far more to that student. The second thing is probably the grossest thing I could possibly imagine, which is making ramen with lukewarm bathroom water and those foul paper towels. You remember like the little like brown paper towels that like dissolved and had zero absorbency? Those ones like on top of the tepid bathroom water ramen that was happening. When I shared that on Instagram, a few people were like, we call that prison ramen, which I don't know if that's true, but apparently that is a thing. So take that with you on your day-to-day. Now you know how to make prison ramen, because this is a podcast for learning. If you have thoughts about what we talked about today, or have suggestions about who you would love to hear come on the podcast, I want to hear about it. So you can email me at Andrea@human-content.com, or you can visit me on Instagram or TikTok at Educator Andrea, or you can kick it with us on our Human Content Podcast family on Instagram and TikTok at Human Content Pods. And this is a still new podcast. And the number one thing that makes my day is when I open up the little app and I see that there is a new review. So thank you guys. Those of you guys who have shared the podcast, who have left reviews for me, it like makes my day. I screenshot them and I send them to the team and send them to my mom. And I don't know that my mom knows how to necessarily print those, but if she did, she'd probably have them printed on the fridge for me, because it just delights us all. So thank you guys for leaving those reviews. It's really cool. And the other way that it gets out there is through word of mouth. So if you love this podcast, make sure to share it with a friend. I wanted to shout out Mama Schwag, I think is how you say it, which is an excellent name. I'm sorry to laugh at it. It's excellent. On Apple Podcasts, said, so excited for this podcast. Andrea's IG account is often the only reason I go on Instagram after a long day of teaching. I love her hilarious stories, and her videos about middle school students are 1000% accurate. Laugh cry emoji. # middle school English teacher. Thanks for being a bright light in the world, Andrea. You help teachers feel seen and heard. Thank you so much for that. I have to tell you guys, the third circle of hell for me is reading nice things about myself that people have said. I would rather read hate mail to myself. Don't write negative reviews. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I'm learning how to take a compliment. So this is like therapy for me. Thank you for joining in this journey where I have to read nice things about myself. If you would like to check out the full video episodes, they are up every week on YouTube at Educator Andrea. Thank you so much for listening. I am your host, Andrea Forkham. A very special thank you to our guest, Joe Dombrowski. Our executive producers are Andrea Forkham, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor is Andrew Sims. Our engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Our recording location is Indiana State by College of Education. To learn more about our Those Who Can't Do program disclaimer and ethics policy and submission, verification, and licensing terms, you can go to podcasterandrea.com. Those Who Can't Do is a human content production.
Those who can't do.
Thank you so much for watching. If you're like me and you're thinking, gosh, I really need more Those Who Can't Do in my life, you can start your binging right now by clicking on that playlist button right over there. New episodes are out every Thursday, so please subscribe and join us each week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.